Boba Fett, the man, the myth, the legend, the absolute dead set. What the fuck is going on here? When Boba Fett first appeared in The Empire Strikes Back in the 1980s, he took the Star Wars fandom by storm. It wasn't long until every kid had an action figure of this character, and that's not a bad effort for someone who had about 5 lines of dialogue. So it's fair to say that as a young, jubilant jellyfish of the 1990s, Boba Fett became one of my favourite Star Wars characters. So when The Mandalorian teased the return of the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy, guess who was as excited as a kid getting a Nintendo 64 for Christmas? It was one thing to have Tamura Morrison back on deck to play Boba, just like he'd played Jango, but I don't think any fan was ready for this. Some fans had been waiting since the 1980s to see this. It was something that all fans knew Boba Fett could do, but we'd never seen it on the big screen before. To see it realised like this was awesome. This was Boba Fett's Darth Vader hallway scene. Not even the comically inept stormtroopers could ruin this moment. Robert Rodriguez is on record saying that he knew how important the character's return was, and he turned what would have been a 2-minute shootout into a massive scene that demonstrated just how capable Boba Fett was. Boba Fett's small but important moments in The Mandalorian Season 2 reassured me that perhaps finally, Star Wars was in the hands of people who knew what they were doing and respected the lore and legacy of these characters. Fett, take off your helmet and take a bow, mate.
Let's just say they might recognize my face.
Oh, you. So when we got to the end of Mandalorian Season 2 and this happened... Guess who was as excited as a kid getting 2 Nintendo 64s for Christmas? Fans were pumped to see the Book of Boba Fett, and noting it would be helmed by the same people that handled him so brilliantly in The Mandalorian, I guess expectations were high. I mean, how could they not be? Just look at this. A year went by, and we finally got to sit down and have a look at the Book of Boba Fett, and my first reaction was something like this.
Yes! Yes! He's won! He's won!
Again, this was a moment that fans had only seen in comics, or at the very least imagined in their own minds. It seemed like the Book of Boba Fett was going to give the fans exactly what they wanted. A consistent character with just the right amount of fan service to make everything worthwhile. Yep, that'd be fucking right. Okay, I'm not here to take a shit all over Boba Fett and Tamura Morrison. It seems like Disney's already done that for me. But what I do want to talk about is one of the major problems I see at Disney right now, apart from the fact that the writers can't seem to figure out what the hell it is they're supposed to be doing, and that is consistency of character. So belt up, Fett fans, as we break down everything we know about the character prior to the Book of Boba Fett. Don't worry, this won't take long. We learned very quickly in The Empire Strikes Back that Boba Fett is a bounty hunter in service to Lord Vader, so clearly he's efficient. He also has a penchant for disintegrations, much to the apparent displeasure of his employer. In the next scene, he quickly demonstrates that he's an outside-the-box thinker, as well as a man who's able to anticipate his opponent's moves well ahead of time. Han and Leia are barely in Bespin for all of 5 minutes before he's walked them straight into a trap with Darth Vader. Not only that, but then he immediately seizes the opportunity to get another quarry under his belt, Luke Skywalker, using his friends as bait to lure him into a fight. This is a man who's clearly at the top of his game, and isn't messing around. At the end of Empire, Boba Fett's cards are stacked and he's off to go live the high life at Jabba's palace, drinking away his days in the company of Twi'leks. Although I'm sure that last bit's not canon, it would certainly explain why he would leap across an open chasm and try to fight a fully armed Jedi. Clearly the man was shit-faced.
Don't fool the Jedi.
Oh fuck. With the exception of his last mistake in Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett is a man who is ruthless, calculated and efficient. And this is perpetuated in The Mandalorian. As we just saw, Boba Fett was not screwing around when it came to getting his armor back, and certainly screwing around even less when he got that armor put back on. This is consistent with who his character was in the original trilogy, although he seems to have softened ever so slightly, what with the fact that he's got Fennec by his side and is also willing to help the Mandalorian get Grogu back. So by the end of Mandalorian Season 2, when he shoots Bib Fortuna in the face, it's clear he hasn't changed all that much since the original trilogy. He certainly hasn't lost a step by falling into the Sarlacc pit. So knowing all this about the character, it's a little confusing when he starts doing things like this. Or more confusing, letting people talk to him like this.
Another understandable misunderstanding. The only tribute I bear is the mayor's heartfelt welcome, which I express in his stead.
My name is Boba Fett.
We know who you are. Go back to your palace.
We just saw Disney's Boba Fett shoot Bib Fortuna in the face, so this comes off as weird and out of character. Now I understand the argument, but he's developing as a character. He's turning from a bad guy into a good guy. Okay, if we're going to go down that storyline, that's fine, but you have to show it. He can't just come out of the Sarlacc pit being a fucking Robin Hood. It doesn't make sense. And it's inconsistent with everything they've shown us so far. I am more than happy to see a character go from a generic villain to a tragic anti-hero. But audiences need a little bit more than a dance with Tuskens to convince us that Boba Fett's completely changed who he is. The more frustrating part about this change is Boba Fett's complete lack of agency. We saw in Empire and Return of the Jedi that he had no problems shooting first and asking questions later, so when he stands around letting people tell him what to do and seems to be confused about hiring mercenaries as a mercenary who used to get hired, doesn't make any sense either. And this isn't just inconsistency between the original trilogy Boba Fett and the Mandalorian Boba Fett. This is inconsistency with his character within his own show. Like in this scene, not only is it stupid that he's not wearing his helmet, but he's surrounded by goons with shields where he can easily take them out with his close-range weapons, that we see him use in the finale in a similar situation. I do not buy the excuse that he's still weak from the Sarlacc pit, because we just saw him destroy a bunch of stormtroopers in The Mandalorian. And more to the point, he's got a fucking jetpack. The amount of times we've seen him just take off and ruin someone's day, Battlefront, anyone? Makes this whole opening scene just frustrating as fuck to watch. This is the same nonsense that they pulled with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. The difference for me this time is that I could actually see it happening, rather than walking out of the film and being confused and asking myself if I was the problem. Boba Fett's competency levels fluctuate wildly depending on what the script needs him to do. If he needs to be put in line by a little punk kid on a scooter, sure enough. If he needs to be dumb so Fennec can look smart, there it is. If all of a sudden he needs to be an absolute badass who knows how to shoot people, there it is. This is disrespectful to fans, but it's disrespectful for a whole host of different reasons than The Last Jedi. Whereas The Last Jedi was actively disrespectful, like shitting on legacy characters. This is just lazy writing. It's malpractice, and it's pathetic that Disney think that fans deserve this sort of garbage. There's no halfway about it. If you're going to use a legacy character like Boba Fett in his own show, do it properly. Do it like you did in Mandalorian Season 2, but don't dial out this stuff and then get confused as to why fans are switching off. Consistency is key, both consistency in writing and consistency of character. Absolutely develop your characters so that they go through challenges and grow as a human, but don't fundamentally change who they are without any exploration as to how it happened. It's just fucking lazy. So the lesson in consistency from the Book of Boba Fett is clear, that Disney are going to consistently fuck up legacy characters until people switch off from their shows. I shouldn't be annoyed at the Book of Boba Fett. I should have been singing this show's praises, but here we are. There were some cool moments in the Book of Boba Fett, but that's about it, which is terribly unfortunate given what they had to work with. But remember, I'm just a brainless lump floating on the ocean current. Hooroo!